The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm so excited to be here with you this morning. We're trying out a new platform, so be patient with us while we explore this new platform on Restream. We've been doing Zoom for the last 6 months, but we're trying it out. Please write in and tell us. We have a new chat as a result of having this new platform, so we have an easier, more expeditious way to read your comments if you're watching us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Periscope. So welcome, though. I am so excited and a little nervous this morning and a little emotional, because today is like this epic full circle moment for me. We've got a great guest who's going to be on with us in just a little while. Dr. Noor Syed is going to be talking with us about a very special new place that has, I don't know if they've officially opened yet, but in Saratoga Springs, which is my hometown. It's where I grew up. Saratoga Springs, New York. And not only is it my hometown where they put this center, but it's literally being built in the backyard of the neighborhood that I grew up in, which is like, it makes me emotional, you guys. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody else but me, but it's sort of those, those little messages you get in the universe about how it all starts to make sense at a certain point. There are little markers along the way where you go, oh, right, I'm right where I'm supposed to be, and things are happening the way that they're supposed to happen, and it all sort of makes sense. I can't wait to sometime when COVID is over, visit the center, because not only is it being created in the backyard of the neighborhood where I grew up in Saratoga, it is also a very special place with very special ideals that make my heart want to rupture because it's so good. So I'm going to wait and let you hear from Dr. Syed about some of those things. But, if you were watching the show yesterday and we were talking about good quality ABA versus a lot of other kinds of ABA and treating individuals with the respect and the dignity that they deserve and being respectful of neurodiversity and helping individuals to become who they're meant to be, not forcing them to be like the rest of us are. If those are ideals that you espouse, then hang around for this hour because we're going there. We are going there. And I'm saying good morning to Kelly. Thank you for being the first to write in on the live feature. Hey, we are going to be with you live for the next hour in a lot of different configurations, and let's talk about some of the different places. Look at Traven with all these cool new graphics that he's got going on. So we are going to be with you live. And if you're watching us live, chances are that you're watching us live on Facebook or YouTube on our homepage, which is Autism Live, or you might be watching us on Twitter or Periscope. And we're thrilled to be in all of those different places. Each one of them has a method of writing in. Now with this new feature, we're much quicker and much more responsive with Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Periscope. If you're watching when it's not live, I really want to encourage you to write in your questions on autism-live.com. That is still up and working. It's just not as efficient live. I got to be honest with you. And also, if you're watching us recorded, you could be watching on any of those places that we just mentioned, or you might be watching us on iTunes, or you might be listening to us on iTunes, on Apple Podcast, on Spotify. I can't even remember all of them. iHeartRadio, Ghana, Amazon Music, which is new and starting any day now, Audible, or Deezer. We are free and a free download on all of those different places. If there's a place that you like your podcast and it's not listed here, please write and tell us, because we want to be there. We just have one criteria, and that's that it has to be free to the person who is watching. We are not, there's no cost to watch our show. We feel that that's really important. We're going to hold on to that until we can't anymore, right? We've been doing this now. We are approaching our 10-year anniversary of doing this show, which is very exciting. So thrilled to be here with you this morning and on this auspicious occasion, because as I said, we're going to be talking to Dr. Noor Syed, who is from SUNY Empire State College. And the new center is called the Center for Autism Inclusivity. Stop. How much do I love that? Just stop. It just makes me so happy. I want to weep. Anyway, I'm very excited to be here with you this morning. We always have wonderful experts here on the show, but we would like to remind you that I'm not one of the experts. That's not what my deal is here. I am a very proud mom of an individual who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. I'm so fortunate. I'm so lucky. And I remember that every single day, because my child, we lucked out. And that's really what it was. But once we lucked out, we worked really hard, and he worked the hardest, right? And he got the very best of intervention. Everybody always talks about early intervention, early intervention, early intervention. My family is living proof of how important that can be if you're getting the good quality early intervention. And so my son is now 17. He's a senior in college, and we're applying to colleges. Yes, in COVID, it's so much fun. And it is. Don't ever let me get away with complaining about things that I dreamt about and thought were off the table for us and are very, very much on the table for us. So my deal here is that I want you to get as lucky as I was for the things that you need and want. And when I say you, we'd say this all the time, that our show is for the really large autism community, which starts with individuals at the very center of it, who are individuals who have been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. They are the living, breathing heart of our community. And we certainly include them and ask them for their opinion and for their voice constantly to guide us. But within that community, we also include everyone who loves those individuals, because we know that that is a much larger community. And that when we speak with one voice together, we get much further. We're not going to agree on everything. We cannot agree on everything, because there's too many individuals in this community that need different things. And we must be mindful of that. However, we will agree on a lot of things, and that's respect and dignity and opportunity. That individuals on the autism spectrum deserve all of those things, especially opportunity to love who they love, to dress how they want to dress, to be who they want to be, to communicate how they want to communicate, to work where they want to work, to live where they want to live. The list goes on. We can agree about those things. We might disagree about a bunch of other things, but I think that's one of the beauties of our diverse community. So that's who we're talking to here. Our mission is to provide information and inspiration. And if we got that coming up a little later on. But remember, I'm not one of the experts, but I like to say I have an informed opinion, having covered autism from a journalistic standpoint in shows like this for well over a decade now, and being somebody who's been in the center interviewing all kinds of people in the autism community. Yeah, I have an opinion, and it's an informed opinion, I like to say, and I'm willing to share it at the drop of a hat, but I'm not an expert. We have to be clear about that. But boy, do we have a good expert today. Yeah. But on Thursdays, we like to start the show before our expert with our little workout, something we call the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym. We try to figure out what in the hey nani are those experts talking about? Why do we need to know this term? Why should we have to learn it? Hey, I'm saying hi to a bunch of people, saying hello to Michelle, Varsha, and Kirsten. Yay. So thrilled that you guys are here. By the way, you guys can all be writing in whatever the chat format is that you're watching. We'd love to hear from you. But anyway, as I said, jargon of the day. What we like to do is first give you the actual actual definition that the experts have. And a lot of times we just like to make fun of that because it's something that we can't access. And that's just my hobby, making fun of things that no one could possibly understand. Then we give you a working definition, which hopefully will help you to begin to understand. Not completely, don't beat yourself up if you don't get it the first time, because these terms will cycle back in and out again. So today's term, as you can see on my little chalkboard, it says idea, right? But that's not quite, we're talking about IDEA, which was a great idea, right? If only it were fully funded. Let's say that. So let's take a look at what our actual definition of IDEA is. IDEA stands for the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. It all starts to make sense. This is federal legislation. It's a public law. We even gave you the number here. Passed in 1997 as a reauthorization of the Education of the Handicapped Act, passed in 1975. This provides mandate and some funding for certain services for students who have disabilities. So when your child has an IEP, which is an individualized education plan or program, depending on which state you're in, it is because of the legislation of IDEA. And the problem that we always run into, let's take a look at our working definition so we can get a little bit more honed in on this. IDEA is the law of the land in regards to education. So this is what empowers you, if your child is on the autism spectrum, to have that individualized education plan. This is what is legislated so that every individual in the United States has the right to a free, appropriate public education. We call it FAPE, free, appropriate public education. Everyone has a right to that. We need to remember that before these laws were passed, that if your child was on the autism spectrum and it was time to go off to kindergarten, the school would say, no, sorry, we don't deal with that. You go on home and stay home with that child and figure it out on your own. And that's barbaric, right? And here in the United States now, because of this law, your child is entitled to that free, appropriate public education. But here's the rub. Never, since it was passed into law, has it been fully funded. Never. There's never been any politician on either side that fully funded IDEA. It's expensive. It's expensive, but it's the law. And until someone says we're going to fully fund this, it means you have to go in as a parent or as a teacher or whoever you might be that's watching this, you have to go in and fight. And sometimes it means fighting and taking away funding from something else. And boy, they'll tell you that at the IEP too, right? Unless you got a tape recorder running and they know that they can't do that. Because they're legally not allowed to tell you that your child can't have an appropriate service because of funding, even though we all know it's the truth. And we're constantly at loggerheads with school officials because there's no way that they can fully fund it. They haven't been given the money. So it's like a shell game. They have to move money around to try to figure out how to give your child. And if you've ever been in this circumstance where you've been at an IEP meeting and thought, wow, I thought these people wanted to really help my child. Why does it feel like they're trying to skimp out of something here? It's because it's not your imagination. It's because they don't have enough money. They've not been given the full funding to give every single child what they need. This is appalling. And I want to tell you that in these last 40 days leading up to the election, we're going to talk more about this and be looking at the different candidates, both at the very top and all through, all down the ticket about who is supporting fully funding IDEA. Or do they have a different idea? But we want to be open to all ways of thinking about this. But if we have a law that says it's there and that has to be provided and we don't fully fund it, what is our expectation of what is going to happen? It becomes a fist fight and it becomes something that raises the anxiety of everyone. It's former teacher here. It's hard for the teachers. It's hard for the administrators. It's certainly hard for the caregivers, but let's not forget who it's hardest for is the kiddos, the students, right? IDEA, it's a very important thing and something we should be considering as we move forward, in these next few months, and certainly when you go to put in your ballot. Okay, that's our jargon for today. Moving on, we always have a question of the day for you. And I'm asking you guys, what's the best thing you learned at school? I've been thinking a lot about Saratoga because I'm a graduate of Saratoga High School. That's how much I'm from Saratoga. And our guest is going to be coming to us from Saratoga today. Woo! So excited. But I've been thinking about some of the amazing teachers that I had in Saratoga at Saratoga High School. And I want to give a shout out to Nadine Staw, who is now Nadine Staw White. And what she taught me, she was a great English teacher at Saratoga High School, but also was a drama teacher. And the things that I learned with her and in her class have stayed with me through all the years. And it's part of the reason why I went on to get my BA and my MFA in theater, because of the excitement that she brewed in her classroom. And let's face it, a good teacher lasts a lifetime. Now I'm going to get emotional. I watched my son when he was in 9th grade. This is a young man who he used to have IEPs to deal with writing, to help him, because it was the most aversive thing in the world to him. He didn't want to write. It was the last thing he wanted to do. And then he had the right teacher. The right teacher in his 9th grade class lit the fire and ignited his imagination. And so he is now applying to schools for writing programs and is a beautiful writer. It's the right teacher. It's all about the right teacher. And we have a topic this week. So we've already talked about the question of the day, but our topic this week is our salute to educators. The difference that a teacher can make in a classroom is just amazing, right? I don't think I know a single person, and I'm asking you guys, let's look back at who's the teacher who lit the fire in you, who's the teacher who made the difference, who's the teacher who said the thing that's still with you, that echoes in your being and is a part of your everyday, who built you up, who let you know you could do it, who broadened your horizons, who expanded the world for you so that you could find your passion. Let's give a salute to all of those educators, because it's not easy work and it certainly doesn't pay well. So these are people that are there because they're passionate about it. And yes, we'll meet some educators along the way who aren't up to the task, who will come in, educate for a couple of years and go, oh, this wasn't what I thought it was. And they will leave. And there are some people who stick around because they like having the summer off, but that is the vast minority. I think the huge majority are teachers who stay there because they are passionate about educating and shaping young minds to be able to go out into the world and make their own decisions. So we love us some educators. So thrilled today, as I mentioned, we've got this great guest. Feel free, you guys, by the way, to throw anything into the chat. See, I'm like wet and weeping. But our guest today, I'm very excited about this. This is Dr. Noor Syed. She's joining us right now on our new platform. She's an assistant professor of applied behavior analysis, ABA, which we talk a little bit about here on the show. She's a clinical coordinator and founding director for, drumroll, the Center for Autism Inclusivity. And we're very excited that she's joining us from SUNY Empire State College. So Dr. Syed, are you there with us? New platform. There she is. Hello.
Hello.
I am so excited that you're here. I've been so looking forward to this interview. I'm like emotional and Twitter pated about it, but I'm so excited that you're here. So welcome, first of all. And for people who aren't familiar with your college or your program, tell us what it is that you're doing and what your hopes are.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I was smiling ear to ear when you were going over the jargon of the day and all the amazing things that you were saying. It's my privilege. And I'm a certified general and special education teacher as well. And I taught in the classroom for 10 plus years, and it was the best time of my life. And so I'm so grateful to have parents like you who make the job worthwhile just behind the kids. they're the only ones that make it a little bit more worthwhile. So I'm very, very grateful to you for having me here.
Well, I'm grateful to you because you're about to do something that is amazing. So tell us what it is you're doing.
So we are doing we have a set of goals, missions, visions, and values is the way I think of the Center for Autism Inclusivity and the ABA program. So SUNY Empire State College is embarking upon this really exciting endeavor of starting a Center for Autism Inclusivity that's going to be based on research and will really seek to add to the workforce of professionals who are compassionate, that use behavior analytic principles. We are really hoping to make resources low cost or free for families in ways that are accessible. And one of the things I'm super excited about is that our initiative that we've just embarked upon this year is really seeking to make SUNY Empire State College an autism supportive community. And so that is just thrilling because we know that there are programs that exist and there are great pathways that you can consider. But what I think is really unique about SUNY Empire is that it's not a pathway that we're looking at per se. It is really taking an assessment of the college as a whole, undergraduate and graduate, and figuring out what supports should really be in place for students who identify as neurotypical, identify as autistic. And to do that, we're really reaching out to the students. We're reaching out to those who are autistic because they are the experts. They know what they need to be successful, and I'm here to listen and do the best I can to implement it. And then right alongside with that is we're planning to launch an ABA program fall of 2021. And I'm so excited about this. I know you and I talked quite a bit about those when we chatted earlier. What we're really looking to do there in that ABA program is, one, to make it accessible for those who work full time, have families who can't necessarily be in a classroom for 3 hours, but still get a robust, wonderful program. We're looking to make it as cost effective as possible. So really meaningfully thinking about scholarships, textbook costs, all of the things that go into being a student. And then finally, I think what is so dear to my heart is that we're really thinking about ways to embed compassion throughout the entire program. See, we talked about IDEA, and it's amazing how many behavior analysts aren't fluent in IDEA or any of their subparts, free and appropriate education, et cetera. And it's really, the onus is on us as educators to teach our students who are coming up in the field about compassion, cultural humility, and sustainability so that it can be pervasive throughout everything that they do.
Yeah, I'm so excited that there are individuals such as yourself who are looking at this in the way that you're looking at it. For so long, I think back to the pioneers of parents who started having their kids do ABA and what the things that they went through. And it feels like we've gone through all these different phases. But when my son was getting ABA and getting great quality ABA, we were so lucky because we had funding through the state of California, and a lot of families didn't have that. And all we prayed for was insurance. Could insurance please cover ABA so that more people could have access? Well, now I can't even believe in my lifetime that we have that. But then the next issue was that as all these people needed trained professionals, board certified behavior analysts, and therapists to come in and be on their team, it became apparent that there aren't enough good training programs. And I would go so far as to say not enough good training programs that are reminding people that while you're using a science on living, breathing people. And they need to be seen as whole individuals that have individual passions and individual ways of looking at things that aren't wrong. But while they're looking at things this way, they need to find a pathway to get done the things that they want to do in this world that doesn't see things their way. And I love, even you're starting with the title and saying inclusivity. So talk a little bit about, because I know that this is a passion of yours, about that looking at individuals as individuals and being humane, and talk a little bit about what else you've got going on there.
Oh, absolutely. So I think you speak to that so well, right? The importance of seeing people as individuals. And I think something that I hear a lot from my students and from those with whom we work is, this idea that we're trying to normalize people who are with autism, and I want to be very inclusive with the language, those who identify and say, I'm not a person with autism, I am autistic, I am an autistic individual. And so it's really important for us to be aware of, when we think about behavior change programs, that we're not thinking about these programs to benefit ourselves. We're thinking about, what does the client want? What is the family looking for? What resources are available in the environment? And what is really the goal of it? Are we, if we're saying like vocal self-stimulatory behavior and we're thinking, oh, we want to decrease that to 0 levels. Is it because it's dangerous? Or is it because, someone might see that and think, oh, I don't understand what's happening. That's a really fine distinction that we have to be aware of, because if it's not dangerous and it's not harmful and it's preferred, then we need to work together to figure out, what would this behavior change program be, if it even needs to be a program. And so to that end, we're starting to do research, and I've had interviews with students in college who are autistic, who identify as autistic, students who are hoping to go to college, who have finished college, and caregivers of parents, or caregivers who have children who hope to go to college. And, just these one-on-one interviews, so they're comfortable, it's a safe space. And I really say, what can we do to support your child to go to school, to support you to go to school? And if you could have this perfect college setting, what would it look like? Because we're going to use that to drive what we'll do. We'll take baseline assessments, from everything to registering and getting financial aid to interacting with your mentor. Is that an easy process? If not, how can we make it easier, right? How can we streamline it, which would help everybody? We want to set up where we're planning to execute a peer mentorship program by fall of 2021, so that there is opportunity to socialize. And we also are going to really have a social kind of group where people can just have a safe space to interact with one another. And trying to get ready for the workforce too, job interview skills, workplace skills. Those are all things that we are launching, as we speak, which is, there's so many balls in the air, but it's all necessary, because it's not enough for me to just think, okay, we'll take care of the onboarding process and then that our work is done. No, we really want to make this a place where someone says, I'm so proud to go to SUNY Empire. They embrace me for who I am. And I've heard about this ABA program, and I sat in on a class, and, they're talking about autism, like about people, not exactly as you say, not just as science. They're talking about the humans and human services. And that is something that we are so dedicated to.
Well, it's so needed. Let's be honest. It's something truly epically needed in our environment. So you're starting. I love the fact that you're starting with the entire college, and you're looking at the entire college environment and making it inclusive, so that anyone can go through any of your programs. But then you are really creating an ABA program starting next fall, where people can learn ABA. And is it ABA for autism or ABA in general at the college?
So that is a fantastic question. I will say that in New York State, your audience is probably aware of this, particularly those from New York. It is the only state in the United States of America that has a really strict scope of practice, in that licensed behavior analysts and board certified behavior analysts are legally only allowed to work with people medically diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. And that's incredibly problematic, because we know ABA is not just a therapy for autism, it's in everything that we do. It's literally the reason why we stop at a red light and we go at a green light. It's pervasive in our everyday lives. So we are really trying hard to lobby so that we can change this scope. That being said, to become a master's program that bears licensure, there is a very heavy emphasis on autism because it's required by New York State. But me being me and working with the amazing, colleagues that I am, where we're embedding in there robust experiences so that someone can understand that this is applied behavior analysis in organizations. This is an understanding of how to train animals using applied behavior analysis, because it wouldn't be fair to our students, I think, to just have one exposure. As you talk about, it wouldn't be a well-rounded practitioner or clinician. So while we are bound by some of the state regulations, we are making and putting those in there so that people can really see ABA comprehensively.
And I got to say, we got to get to some legislators in the state of New York, because what's ironic is that we're always trying to explain to people on the show that ABA is not just for autism, because I think that families, when you have a kiddo on the autism spectrum, that's how you get introduced to ABA, and you go, oh, ABA is an autism treatment. Well, the truth of the matter is that ABA, I would say that because I've been to some of the ABA conferences, and it's maybe now about 50% autism and 50% is in businesses and in real life and Olympic athletes. The principles of ABA are used in nursing homes. They're used in there are factories that use the principles of ABA to try to make an environment in which their employees feel better and are more productive as a result of them. So now in 2020, we're cresting about 50% of the field is about autism. And I expect that it will just grow because it happens to be wildly successful with individuals with autism. But it's not without some controversy. We should say that there are people, and this was brought up on our show yesterday, there are a lot of self-advocates, people who identify themselves as self-advocates who are not fans of ABA. I don't know how you feel about this, Dr. Syed. I always stand by everybody gets to tell their story and to have their say and to say whatever they need to say with what their experience is. I'm always trying to remind people that all ABA experiences are not the same, and that a good quality ABA program looks absolutely nothing like some of the things that are being put out there as ABA right now. And my challenge to self-advocates always is, I hear what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I'm not trying to take away your experience, but I'd like to expose you to good quality ABA so that you can judge based on that. Because if all you've ever seen is bad ABA, I don't think anybody would want it. But I've been there front row center to see what great quality ABA looks like. And it is amazing. Changed my son's life, changed my life. And I've watched it change so many other people's lives it did not change who my son was. What I always say is that it was like he was running on a track and other people were running around the track with no problem. And my son had like 13 hurdles in front of him that were not of interest to him. He wanted to get someplace, and those 13 hurdles were just making it harder for him. And what ABA did was say, oh, we can move this one out of the way for you. You can run around this one. You can totally bypass this one if you choose. So that my son could run his own race, his individual race. So I'm a huge fan of ABA, but I always support and acknowledge that there are individuals who had a negative experience with badly done, unethical ABA. That's what I have to say. Anything you want to add to that? I don't mean to put you on the spot, Dr. Syed.
No, not at all. I think that you spoke to that so eloquently. And I would just add that I think that there is, exactly as you say, there's bad ABA. And those who feel like their experiences with applied behavior analysis have been negative, I respect that wholeheartedly, because they probably were. And I think that, your idea of seeing what good ABA is really critical. I think what I have to say, I think there's an impetus here for us as behavior analysts, because to really, that compassion piece, to reach out and say, tell me what I'm doing wrong. And that's something that I've been starting to do. I've been trying to, connect with self-advocates. And there are some who don't feel comfortable in speaking with me, and I respect that. I'll ask that anybody who feels comfortable speaking with me, please do, because I want to know what we're doing wrong so that we can fix it. And I want to bring those findings to the ABA community, because I have to say that while this might be a bit of a controversial opinion on my end, I don't think we've done enough at all as an ABA field. That we just started talking about compassion and cultural humility in the past few years. And I'm glad we're talking about it now, but I think that it's so much a part of what we do. And, person-centered supports, that needs to be language that we use all the time. So what we need to do a much better job, and I can already see, is saying, what do you care about? What's important to you? And please, please tell us. I just have to kind of say, I'm really pleading here. I want to know what we're doing wrong, because I want to help be part of the group that fixes it. Because there is rote, rigid, restrictive ABA that we don't want to see. And then there's a progressive applied behavior analysis, which is, seeing people as individuals, which is actually what I have to say, which is what ABA should have always been. And that really, I think, is, except that some, as you mentioned, are not trained as well, some professionals. So working with the individual, moment to moment decision, saying, if you don't like this, let's change it. Eye contact, it's not everybody needs to make eye contact. In some cultures, it's rude to actually do that. So let's work together and to figure out how we can help you be successful, because we need to create this culture of feedback and this culture of seeking out what we don't know. And that's where we are.
Yeah, I'm always trying to tell people that for me, they always want ABA consolidated down. And I say, imagine it's the best teaching tool, right? And it rewards you for learning. And as a former teacher, and I think once a teacher, always a teacher, I think it's important to teach people skills, but it isn't essential that you're not going to take every skill that somebody teaches you and turn that into how you live your life, right? But when you learn, you have choices. So it's always interesting to me when somebody will say, well, I'm not going to force my child to speak. I don't, some people communicate without speaking, and, since it didn't develop naturally, we're not going to force it. And while I completely agree that no one should be forced to do anything, I always like to go back to when our children learned how to walk and they stumbled, and sometimes they hit their head and they got frustrated and it was hard. But we knew that with some practice that they eventually, and they may have even have been like, I don't like this because I hit my head, but with some practice that they would gain a skill that they would use the rest of their life at their choice, at their will, that we weren't forcing them to do. And most of us, had a moment when our kids fell and hurt themselves where we were like, oh no, how is this going to go? And had emotions and feelings about it. But we didn't say, that's it. We're going to stop the learning. We didn't say, go ahead, bring in the wheelchair. We're giving up on this because we're going to stop the learning because the learning is frustrating. And we haven't done that with a whole bunch of other things. So I'm a fan of teaching and having teaching be compassionate and rewarding and not forceful and not punitive, but allowing for skills to develop and then letting them choose which skills that they want to use. My son, at a certain point, I remember being at a birthday party with him, and he was trying so hard to connect with the other kids at the birthday party. And he gained a lot of skills, and he was trying so hard to get them to play with them. And there was just a couple of things that he didn't understand socially, so he couldn't quite connect. And I remember him laying on the floor in the foyer of the house that we were in and sobbing and saying, what do I have to do to get them to play with me? And we were able to go back to our ABA team the very next day and say, here's what happened. And within 2 weeks, they had said to him, oh, well, for other people, they see things this way, and teach him that perspective taking. He was like, oh, that's all I had to do to be able to play with these people. Changed his life. Now, he had an understanding in that moment that the thing that was important to those kids wasn't necessarily important to him, but what was important to him was that he could connect with them, and that he now understood their language and said, oh, when I want to, I can switch on this skill to connect with this person. And to me, that's inclusivity. If we could only teach that to everybody, what would the world look like? So that's where I'm coming from with the ABA. And I think that what you have said both here and in our previous conversation about how you want to have people be mindful and compassionate and be looking at this from all different perspectives is very exciting. So let's talk about this. When is it open for people to start applying to your program?
So that is a great question. We're hoping to launch fall of 2021. So for the ABA program, it would be registering next spring and next summer. So I encourage, if anybody has questions, to contact me. Please do. I'm happy to share more about the program. And yes, please sign up for it, because I think that I do believe that it'll be unique in that, one, it's going to be fully asynchronous. That's what we're planning to do, but to do it again super meaningfully, so that you're having a really robust discussion with me, with your colleagues, except we're doing it via video. So it's on your own time. You can record it at midnight after you do the remote learning for the kids, help them with their homework, put them to bed. So I ask that, we really take that leap. If you're feeling like, I don't have time to do this, we will work with you to make it, really match your schedule. And then the center, please reach out to me, now. While we're still a set of initiatives, we do hope to have a brick and mortar, and then we hope to start putting these supports in place spring of this coming school year, which is spring of 2021. So while it'll be a bit tiered, right, we wouldn't be able to change the whole college at once. We're going to do step 1, step 2, step 3, so that we're going to start to see a change in the college, and it's in the way it supports and embraces students who are autistic or who identify as neurodiverse.
And so we have a question about, so the center, will it just be for students that are at the college, or are you going to be treating kids as well? What's going to happen at the center?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, the center will be focusing on kids at the college, but we are already in conversation with the Anderson Center for Autism, which is located in Plattsburgh, New York, to open up a clinic. 2, we are working hand in hand with Anderson Center to really start to create practicum opportunities for students who go into the master's program and now need to have the applied experience. But to do that, again, in a way that embraces compassion, embraces sustainability, so that you don't feel like when you leave the program, okay, I'm done, I'm supposed to sit for my BCBA, but I don't know how to supervise, I don't know how to mentor. We're going to embed in their mentorship opportunities, the ability to guide others, so that you feel empowered when you leave to start to be a little bit more independent. And so when children too are looking to kind of be part of the center, I invite you to contact me, because we have these great partners such as Anderson. And through that, we want to start that clinic again and do amazing research to see if what we're doing is working. But to just hone this point, and I know I'm talking a lot about it, compassionate applied research. If it's research that doesn't make the lives of the children better, then it's probably not research that we're going to engage in. And that research has a place in behavior analysis, and I respect it so very much, and I thank it for all its contributions. This will be different. This is very much the top priority will always be social significance. And like in the classroom, can the teachers actually do this strategy so that it doesn't break down, that gap between research and practice? It's really, this worked for me, and it made a difference in my classroom, and then it made a difference with your children. So please kind of jump on board, because we'd love to have you.
And someone else is asking, can anyone nationwide do this program? I want to recommend this to some friends that are educators.
Yes, anyone nationwide can do it. Thank you so much for that comment. I appreciate it. Because it is asynchronous, we are building it so that anybody around the nation can do it. And I'll work with you, right? So if something is due midnight Eastern Standard Time and you need it midnight Pacific Time, that's absolutely okay. And I've had students reach out and say, I'm the single parent, and can I do this? Absolutely. And I think too, with it building asynchronous and with a focus on cultural humility, we also hope that it reaches individuals from around the world, because I do a lot of work internationally, so that you're building a community when you're in the classroom of people that are from the United States, but also hopefully around the world, again, to really build a robust, comprehensive, compassionate knowledge of our work.
And when they complete this program, what is the actual degree?
The degree is a Master of Science in Applied Behavior Analysis, and then you are eligible to sit for the New York State licensure exam in behavior analysis, as well as the international certification to become a board certified behavior analyst. Now that certification does change in 2023. The board is no longer certifying people outside of the United States and Canada, but it still will set you up for success for other types of certifications that one can take. And I'm happy to talk our students through that, as well as even really help the students, if they're from a different country, figure out how they can take these principles and utilize those in their countries.
And is it a 4-year program, a 5-year program, or do you design it yourself because it's asynchronous?
That's a fantastic question. So we do want you to go through with a cohort, ideally, because I think one of the most important things about the work that we do is that you build a community of others that you can collaborate with and bounce ideas off of. So there are specific semesters in which classes are offered. That's not to say that, if something happens, then you need to kind of take a semester off and come back. We'll welcome you back, but just something to be sort of mindful of. The fastest that you can do it, if you are, full-time, all in, and just have the capacity to do that, would be 1.5 years. We anticipate more students to be part-time because, like ourselves, they work full-time and they have families, other obligations. And so that it might be 2.5 years with summer semesters as well. So we'll work with you to make the schedule be accessible for you, but know that, you can really finish it as quickly as 1.5 years, or if you take a little longer, that's okay too.
And you're a part of the SUNY system. For people who don't know what that is, take a second to tell them I'm a product of the SUNY system. Explain to them what that is.
It is full circle for me too. I'm also a product of the SUNY system. My undergraduate was an ABA with Dr. Romanchik at SUNY Binghamton. So it's so exciting to kind of be this full circle. It is the State University of New York, so it's public schools within New York State. What's exciting about that is that if you are in New York State, the cost is lower, but even if you're out of state, I would venture to say it's one of the more affordable options versus, let's say, a private school where the costs can be a bit different. So that's something that's super exciting about it. And what I think is great too is that you have SUNY Empire, but all the SUNYs work together quite often. So if you decide SUNY is not a fit, or SUNY Binghamton may be not a fit, or SUNY Empire is not a fit, that is okay. We will work with you to find a place within the SUNY system that you feel will work for you.
Which is amazing. My dad worked for the SUNY system, so I really am a SUNY brat. And then I went to SUNY Oswego, State University of New York at Oswego, and eventually went back and taught there. So I really am a SUNYite. But I don't live in New York anymore. I couldn't hang with the winters. I don't know how you guys do the winters. It's crazy up there. But Saratoga is beautiful. And we do need to say that where this center is going to be is in a very specific place. Tell them where it is in Saratoga.
So right now, because we're not a brick and mortar yet, we're set of goals, but we do hope to have a brick and mortar in Saratoga Springs on the main campus of SUNY. Given kind of all the challenges that are happening right now around the world, we're all remote for the fall. So I'm not actually in Saratoga Springs at this time, but we hope to be there, when it's safe to do that. But it'll be in Saratoga Springs. The clinic that we're hoping to launch with Anderson Center for Autism will also be further north because there's a huge need for services. A lot of the services are located primarily downstate, like New York City. So that will be around Plattsburgh. That will be a little bit closer to Saratoga Springs. And what's great about our partner, let's say Anderson Center, they do have services located all throughout northern New York.
Well, wonderful. But, really totally in my stomping ground, my old stomping ground. So at some point when all this COVID mess is over, I'm going to come and visit you when you have your whole brick and mortar and see what you're doing, because I think it's remarkable. We're so excited for you. Where should they go if they want more information?
Please email. You can email me. It's jar.syed@esc.edu. I will answer all the questions that you might have. And if I can't, I will direct you to the person that can. We do have a Center for Autism Inclusivity website that they can access through SUNY Empire's website. But I think for more specific information, I'm really happy to help. And I'm happy to chat with you about the program, about our expectations, and hear your thoughts and your feedback. Because again, we really want to incorporate it with your perceptions of what you're looking for your children and for yourselves if you're planning to go to school.
And give your email again one more time, but slower, because people now have their pens ready. Go ahead.
Oh, absolutely. It's noor.syed@esc.edu.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being with us, and we applaud you for what you're doing. We just need more of this. And I can't wait until people graduate from your program and go out into the field and bring this mindfulness, compassion, and really looking at individuals as individuals. That's a very exciting, we need more of that. We just need more of that.
Thank you so much, Shannon.
All right, you take care.
My pleasure. You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye. We just have a couple of minutes left here, you guys. And so I wanted, I had not asked Dr. Syed if we could ask her individual questions, so I didn't want to put her on the spot to do that. We have a couple of comments here. Somebody said, my son, 6-year-old, has recently developed an affinity for a cap and socks for at least 1 month. He wears them 24/7 and starts to cry the moment he loses it. Earlier, that affinity for cap and socks was not there. And I just, in light of what we just have been talking about compassion and looking at an individual, let's talk about the fact that, since COVID has started, are any of you doing something different to comfort yourself than you did before? Is there something that, I was thinking about this morning, actually, about I want to do a thing on the show about what have you ordered to have delivered to your house that was something that is just for comfort? Because I'm going to share with you, I know that there are other show hosts who've been showing that they wear shorts. I'm not wearing shorts, but look what came last night from Amazon. I got to put it right. These fuzzy slippers for me to wear during the show. I know it's summer out and it seems crazy, but in the room that I'm in, I have discovered that I thought for a while, I was like, look at this, I can be barefoot and do the show. But it's not my thing. And putting shoes on doesn't feel right either. But I just for the first time, I'm doing the show in my fuzzy slippers. But what have you guys done recently or changed that is just about a comfort thing during COVID? Because some of them don't totally make sense on paper, but it's something that's giving you comfort. So I don't know why it's this one particular hat and why it's this one particular pair of socks, but I know that what he's communicating through his behavior is there's something about this that I feel uncomfortable when it's not there. And I don't know what that is. We always talk here on the show about finding the function of something, but a lot of times the function of something is it makes us feel more secure. So, I think we would want to look at that, and I think we would want to be compassionate about it. Obviously, he's not going to be able to go through the rest of his life and wear the same hat and the same pair of socks without them being washed. But for right now, I would be interested in figuring out, I don't know your child's language ability, what he understands, whether washing them will cause him great anxiety. But I would encourage you to be working with your ABA provider, and hopefully you have one who's being compassionate about it and not just try to take the hat and the socks away from him, because there's a reason why he's wanting them. And with good ABA, what we figure out is what that reason is. And if it's not functional, if it's preventing them from doing other things, we find something else that serves the same function before we ever try to take the thing away. So maybe your ABA provider, depending on what your child's skill ability is and what their communication ability is, maybe they'll give him something else that he'll find very comforting. And then from there, we can say, okay, now that you're comforted, can we take and wash the hat and the socks? And maybe we don't take them to the laundry room to do them. Maybe we take them first and just splash a little bit of water and go there. It's so much better. And then they get the hat back. So it's 2 seconds. Maybe then we take the hat and dunk it all the way in water. Then maybe we get them to add some soap and make some bubbles because hat likes the bubbles and it smells good now. And now we get to put the hat back on. But you got to go slow, you know? And I would encourage you to be working with someone about, you know, where the anxiety is coming from, but everybody's having it. If you're not having a little bit of anxiety and COVID, I'm worried for you because I'm afraid it's going to come on you all at once and you won't know what to do with it. And to think that our kiddos aren't having anxiety it's a little, you know, we got to open our brains to the fact that they're little sponges, and not only are they having their own feelings, but they pick up on ours as well. So I think everybody would write in and tell you that we all are having something, and all of our kiddos are too. We're seeing this across the board. Parents are writing in and saying, we've had regression. We're seeing behavior we never saw before. We're seeing behavior we haven't seen in 5 years. But isn't that a little true of us too? I was talking to a friend last night and they said, I had a moment where I felt a way I haven't felt, you know, in 20 years. I thought I was past being worried about these kinds of things, but it came on me suddenly. So I think we got to be compassionate about that. I don't want you to panic though. He's not going to spend the rest of his life in the hat and the socks. I think the thing to be more concerned about is, you know, how can we help him to deal with the feelings that he's having? How can we help him to feel secure? How can we help him to get comfort from more than just one hat and one pair of socks, right? And then we can work on making sure that the hat and socks get clean. But especially until things change, I wouldn't be looking to take away something that's making us feel better. That's just my opinion. And I think I started the show by saying I'm not an expert, but I'm a parent. And I'm a parent who, you know, I feel for you because it's like, wait a second, where did this come from? And is this going to prevent him from doing other things in his life? I'm sending you a hug. It's not going to prevent him. But, you know, I was saying this to a parent the other day. It's got to be fair. Everything has to be fair for our kids. And that doesn't come from me. That's Dr. Grampiche says that on an hourly basis. When somebody talks about something that their kiddo is doing, and she says, okay, but is it fair? Let's look at it from that point of view. And there's a lot that's going on right now that is not fair for our kids. Woo! You want to like sit and do their little distance learning thing for a day and you'd be like, oh yeah, no, this is not fair. So we have to even it out and make it fair. And sometimes they're going to have anxiety and they're going to grab a hold of something that feels like it's a little bit of control, that feels like at least I know when I'm here and I have my hat on and my socks on, I'm okay. I don't know how that got equated in his head, but if that's where he's at, I would try to meet him there as much as possible. Somebody says you are my expert for washing hands. Did you guys see? I don't know if we shown the video here on that we did. My son shot a video of my husband and I being very strange and weird. It's singing "Let's Do the Time Warp Again," and we changed the words to "Let's Wash Our Hands Once Again." You know, maybe we could show that tomorrow on the show, Draven. I don't know if we've shown it. I'm not even sure if it's on YouTube. Holding hands. Yes. No, we always hold hands on this show. Si se puede, right? We hold hands virtually. We can get this done. But sometimes we need a reminder of, oh, wait a second. We're trying to teach perspective taking to our kids, but we have to do it first. We take the perspective of, okay, wait a second. Why is my child doing this? And if my child had full verbal ability of an adult who has total verbal ability, what would they be saying to me right now? And in the instance of the hat and the socks, I think that they would be saying, you know, I feel really uncertain right now. I don't know what's going on, but this hat and these socks make me feel like it's going to be all okay. Don't take that away from me, right? And if he could say that, wouldn't we go, oh, okay, well, let's I want you to feel safe, but let's talk about that. Why are you feeling unsafe? How can we make you feel more safe? How can we help you to get through this so that, and by all means, like when you need it, let's have you put the hat on because we want you to feel safe. So that's where I'm coming from with that. And thank you for writing in about that, because I think we're all going through this on some different level, right? And as adults, we should be talking to each other about that and say, okay, what is it that's making me feel safe right now? Is that a good thing? Is it something that's productive? Is it the most productive thing I can be doing? Because I think we've all gone through different machinations. I'll be honest and say that in the beginning of COVID, I was like, how much can I eat? Because that's how I was feeling safe. And I'm finding that that doesn't have to be the way that I feel safe, but it doesn't mean that I don't do other things to keep me feel safe. That truly spending 20 minutes on the treadmill helps me to regulate right now. That's me. And if you had told me at the beginning of COVID, that would be the thing that would be saving me, I would have laughed until I wept, right? But it's the truth. It is the truth. So we're going to look at it that way for our kiddos too. Everybody needs to feel safe, at least part of the day. We're not going to guarantee anybody, oh, you're going to feel safe all the time, because that's just not in the cards right now, right? Too much going on. But we want to have at least opportunities during the day to feel safe. And once we get that, then we can work on feeling safe in other environments with other things going on. Yeah? Okay, we're totally out of time. We're past time, excuse me. Loved being with you here today. Love the opportunity to share with you guys. Love that I got to virtually talk about Saratoga and my hometown. But tomorrow on the show, we have Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. And Nancy's going to be here with me. And we are going to have licensed and marriage family therapist Vince Redmond is going to be here with us. But we also have a young researcher who's going to be here doing a very interesting study right now, research study, looking for families in the state of California to fill out a survey looking at disparity in IEPs based on zip code, financial circumstances, potentially race, right? Looking at how do some people get some services and other people don't? If you feel passionately about leveling that playing field and taking a look at who's getting services and who's not, join us tomorrow, because she's going to tell us how you can participate. And it's this is a pretty intense research. It's just a little bit of your time. It's less than an hour of your time, but you will need to fill out a couple of different surveys for them. And so there is a gift card that you will earn as a result of doing this. It's only for folks in the state of California, although they are looking to do this in other states as well. So they're going to be taking interest from people who are in other states. So that's tomorrow too, along with Vince Redmond. And we'll also find some news stories for you that hopefully will be of interest to you. I just absolutely adore all of you. I also want to say to the person who reached out and said that they would love to have Barry Present on the show or reaching out. We've interviewed him before, but not technically. We've interviewed him at events and not technically in the show, but he said to us before in the past that he would be happy to be on the show. So we're reaching out. We love it when you request people, and we love telling them, we've had a request from a viewer that we would love to have you be on the show. And he is a wonderful, wonderful person in his book, Uniquely Human, very much in the line of everything we've been talking about this week. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.